Good morning, everybody. Happy Easter. I'm glad you can come watch me present this informative and riveting presentation. So by show of hands, how many of you guys on a daily basis drink something similar to this, maybe juice or soda, Gatorade? All right, so more than 50%. Okay. How many of you are aware that the health risks associated with the consumption of refined sugars? Okay, awesome. 2, 3, 2. All right, slide. This is what we'll be talking about today. Just a brief rundown. I'm going to give you a good definition of what refined carbs are, carbohydrates in general, what refined carbs actually fall under in terms of simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates, and the health problems associated with the consumption, which I've already spoken about a little bit, and glycemic index. That's something probably most of you guys don't really know about, glycemic index. Go ahead, slide. You can read the definition up there, but essentially what refined sugars are is a process in which cane sugars or beet sugars that are found in nature, they're taken and they're refined to 99% pure sugar. That's everything's taken out, including all nutritional elements, and of course, soil, stock, anything that was growing out of the ground, you don't want to eat anyway. Go ahead, next slide. I just wrote down where most of your table sugars come from. It's 60% cane, 40% beet, and what that's essentially saying is 99% of the sugar you consume daily are these refined sugars, and that's included in everything you drink. The juice drinks, Gatorade, Mountain Dew, Monster, whatever you guys like to consume. Next slide. So as I already mentioned, all nutritional elements are lost. This is actually where you get empty calories, or it's called junk food. It's extremely harmful to your health, and we'll go ahead and talk about it a little more. This is to give you a better understanding where refined sugars fall in the carbohydrate spectrum. There's two kinds of carbohydrates: your simple carbs, which is where most of your simple sugars fall into. Your sucrose, fructose, your disaccharides, monosaccharides. Those are the two main carbohydrate classifications. Then you get your complex carbohydrates. We'll talk about that more in a minute. As I mentioned already, you've got monosaccharide and disaccharide units. Most soft drinks actually contain fructose, and that's where that's also refined sugar along with sucrose. Sucrose is actually a disaccharide. It consists of glucose and fructose. That's where you get it's a double bond. It's very fast digestion rate. With that being said, essentially when you drink any kind of sugar product, it's either going to be used immediately for energy or it's going to be stored as fat. So if you like drinking a Coke before you go to bed, you should probably think twice about it. Or if you like drinking 20 Mountain Dews a day, you should probably think about it. Or Gatorade as well. If you ever notice, there's a lot of overweight people, they sip on Gatorade all day. That's all they drink. That's probably really for it. Next slide. Okay, your complex carbohydrates are your starch, glycogen, and dietary fiber. Your starches are like potatoes and wheat bread, wheat rice, stuff like that. And it actually breaks down real slow. It's real healthy. It'll break down through the day. Totally different than your simple carbohydrate. All right, there's thousands of risks associated with it, but I'm just going to mention a few. You can read through them yourselves. I'm going to focus on the last three. Slide. Yeah, cancer's always good. All right. These last three are extremely important because I'm going to talk about our profession as soldiers, and with this stuff, it's the increasing rise of soft drinks and consumption is creating an epidemic, in my personal opinion. All right, next slide. All right, you can see over the last 20, 28 years, 30 years. This is essentially what the obesity rate in America is picked up dramatically. Then you can see the scale. You're looking at today, essentially the whole nation, you look, is obese. And it's no coincidence that soft drinks have always, at the same time, risen at the same rate. People consume massive amounts. There's something new every day. You know, Red Bull, whatever. Everybody sucks it down. High sugar. 30, 40, 50 grams of sugar per can. Next slide. It's kind of weird because diabetes have also been rising at the same time. That's kind of strange. And if you notice, refined sugars and high consumption of it is actually a cause of diabetes. Next slide. Of course, and I got right here, this is a chart. It kind of charts back from Civil War period up through World War II, kind of current. And you can see the increase in soldier size as well. And in my opinion, it definitely has a lot to do with the rise of availability of these sweet drinks and foods. Next slide. This is a couple of fact or fiction. It's kind of horrifying, it really is. And this is reflecting in the Army at the same time. And like I said, I really believe that this consumption of high sugar foods is a big contributor to it. Next slide. This is just a brief, to help you eat better, this is just a brief overview. I include this in the handout of glycemic index. It's going to help you make better choices in the chow line. You can actually read what the glycemic index is. It basically rates the carbohydrates on the scale. The higher, the worse the carbohydrate, the lower, the better the carbohydrate. Of course, all sugars are very high in the GI scale. Next. Of course, I already mentioned that. It's pretty simple. But you can actually go to this website and you can find any kind of food you want, and it can help you make better choices. Like if you love a certain kind of food and you type it in there, it'll give you the GI value, and you can actually make better choices in the chow line. Like that handout, it mentions a lot of good stuff. Next slide. Just give you a brief overview of what we talked about today. I hope it was informative, and it'll maybe deter you from sucking down Coca-Cola all day long or whatever you like to drink. Finding a no sugar substitute for it.